Yeah, good evening, everyone. So last session we learned about class in TypeScript. In TypeScript object-oriented programming, we learned about interface. We call it technically as contracts. That means interface and about class. So about classes in TypeScript, what are the key points we learned? One is we discussed class members. So class members we discussed. What are the class members we have? Every TypeScript class can have property. It can have a method and it can have a constructor and it can have an accessor. So can we have variables in a class? Understand my question. I asked, can we have a variable in class? We can have a variable in class. Can variable be a class member? Why? Why variable cannot be a class member? Because variables are immutable. Why we need only mutable members in a class? Why we need only mutable members in a class? Because class is a template. And what is the nature of template? Template allows customization. And if it is immutable, you cannot customize. That is. So how data is stored in a class? Where data is stored in a class? Data is stored in properties. In a class, data is stored in properties. How we can control the properties? I showed you one example. So proving that property is mutable. This is the example we done. How we prove that property is mutable? By using accessors. We have two accessors. One is getter, another one set. We done this example. So in this example, I showed you. So here we declared, this is the program. Here we declared, so the username, role, product name. Product name is a property. And this property have two accessors. One is getter, another one setter. By using the getter, we can read the value present in a property. By using setter, we can store value into property. But we are not using direct data storing into property. We are using a simple logic. If role is admin, then only you can set a value. If not, it cannot. That means now the property is changing its behavior. For certain stages, it is working as, read only, and other it will work as read write. It is changing its behavior. This is the example we tried. Last session, I completely explained this example. So username, some username. Role, suppose some role customer. And product name, some product name. Customer cannot set the product name. Then it will show a message, you are unauthorized, not authorized to set product name. But if role is, so here username is John, role is admin, then some product name allowed. We are restricting the property and we are changing the behavior of a property by using what? Accessors. So in a class, you need to know about two things. First, we will see detail about class property. So property is nothing but property describes data. That means in a class, data is stored in a property. So property, how it is different from variable? Property is what type? Mutable. I already given you FAQ, difference between a property and a variable. So property describes data, and in a class data is stored in properties, and property is mutable. That is important. And syntactically, how we define class, some class name, and we have a property, and it's a property data type. That is simple process. So how we define a property and configure it. Now, how to get more control over property? For that, we have to know about accessors. So what are accessors? So accessors, actually accessor gives a fine grained control over property. Accessor gives a fine grained control over property. That means a good control over the property. So accessor, it allows to restrict, it allows or restricts read and write operations on property. Accessor allows or restricts read and write operations on property. And accessors are two types. So we have a getter and we have a setter. What is difference? What is getter and setter? Actually, getter is used to read a value from property, and setter is used to store value into property. That is what getter and setter can do. Already I explained this in the previous example. I am just giving a detailed note here about those. And how do we do? So syntactically we write like this: get alias name, and what getter have to do? It is compulsory to return value. So how setter will work? Set alias name. Alias name means property name, property reference name, and a new value, and it is used to set. That means value is equal to new value, whatever the new value. This is getter and setters. Getter is used for reading a value, and setter is used for storing a value. These are already there in JavaScript, the same way we use in TypeScript also. So getters and setters are not new, they are already there in JavaScript. So JavaScript also have class, and JavaScript class have properties, and it have getters and setters. That is the same thing I showed here. Only additional here is data type, how we can configure the data type. And last session I given a complete clarity on why we have to mention so string, undefined and null. Why we have to mention three things for this: string, undefined and null. String because it can finally store a string. Until string is defined, it is undefined. Why null? If value is expected dynamically and it is not stored, then it will return null. So three situations will be there. It can return the value, it can return undefined or it can return null. That is the reason we have to set a union of all the three types. So this is one example of that, and we have to link in index.html. In index.html, the JavaScript file, already given this example in class. In the classroom code, I already given this example. Just only detail I showed here. Now accessors have one more purpose. We use accessors in another way also. What is another purpose of accessor is see. Generally, suppose I am creating a class. So this is product class. In the product class, we have name, which is a string type, and we have some data. That means some name. Now we have some price, that is a number type, and we have some data. Okay. Now we have some rate, customer rating. Customer rating is an object type. It is an object type. And how to write an object already we learned. This is an object type with which is having so rating, and rating is what type? Number. And it is having rate. Rate is what type? This is also number. Then we can store a object inside it. That means we need to store some object inside. And that object should contain two things. One is rating, another one is rate. Suppose this is how to access customer rating. It is easy. How to access customer rating? It is easy because you have to just access customer rating dot rate. So, or here we will put rate, and here we will just put a count. Okay. Rate and count, and here we are defining. It contains rate. Rate is how much? Some 4.3, and count is how much? Some 4,500. Now how to access customer rating? It's very simple. LET TV is equal to new product, and through TV we can access customer rating dot rate. That means it will return how much? 4.3. So customer rating is an object, in that there is rate. But sometimes this is easy, okay, because only one level is there. But sometimes a very lengthy hierarchy will be there. Lengthy hierarchy will be there. For example, lengthy hierarchy is nothing but, suppose if data is present like this. So here we have rating. Rating is an object. And in this rating object, we have so vendor rating. Vendor rating. Vendor rating is again object. And in this we have rate, so which is a number type, and we have count, and this is also a number type. And we have another one, customer rating. Customer rating is again object. In that we have rate, this is also number, and we have count, this is also number. Now this is a very complicated object. So that means in rating there is vendor rating. In vendor rating again there is rate and count. So here we need first what? We need to store the data. I am storing the data inside it. What is the first data we need to store? First is an object. What is that object? We have vendor rating. Vendor rating is an object. In that what? Rate. Rate is suppose 5.0, and we have count. Count is how much? Suppose some 60. We have another one, customer rating, and we have to use rate is some 4.3, and count is some 6,200. This is a very complicated object. Now tell me how to access vendor rating. How to access vendor rating? TV dot rating dot what? Vendor rating. In that what? Rate. It's a lengthy one. It's a lengthy. There can be several more hierarchies. In real time, object inside object, object inside object, very lengthy. I showed you, if you remembered, API dot NASA. I showed you NASA API's data. This is NASA API data. This is actually NASA API data. It is NASA official data. And see, when you see the NASA official API data, you see this is returning an object. This is returning an object. In this object, it is an object of array. In that array, again object. And observe that actually this is object. In that object array, in that array again there is an object. In that object again there is one more object. Camera is another object inside. It's a very lengthy hierarchies. This kind of data we will work every day. Now accessing such lengthy data is always risky. Means you need a lot of things to do, a lot of reference. Then what you can do is very simple. We can simply create an accessor called get vendor rating. Vendor rating. It's an accessor. It can return this dot rating dot vendor rating dot rate. That's it. Now how to access vendor rating? It's very simple. Console.log. So we will put a message vendor rating. How to access it? Very simple. We have to use TV dot what? Vendor rating. That's it. You don't need a lengthy hierarchy. Previously, without accessor, how to access it? Without accessor, how to access it? So suppose customer rating, there is no accessor for it. Then how to access? TV dot rating dot customer rating dot rate. Now with accessor, it is simple. We create an accessor to have a good control over the properties. If a property is present at multi-level hierarchy, then you can simply pick it up and access directly by using accessor. That is the purpose of accessors. So accessors are used to have good control over properties. There are so many situations for accessors. There are so many options for accessors. And one, you saw how we can put read and write operations. Another one, you saw how do you control the multi-level hierarchy. So this example I given previously is related to how to control read only. And one more important, actually, accessors are also used to access any property from a multi-level hierarchy. Accessors are also used to access any property from a multi-level hierarchy. That is another purpose of accessors. And this is example for that. So accessors, two purpose you saw. One is how accessors are used for controlling read and write operations, and how accessors are used to read from a multi-level hierarchy. This is the example I will copy. In this example, you will have that code. Here we created a complicated object which contains so many hierarchies, and we can access. Let's run this and see. I will open in a separate explorer so that you can see it clean, and run this index.ts and node index.js. So don't worry about the error. This is not error. It is simply saying that accessors are not available in older version of JavaScript. If your JavaScript is higher than 215, that means ES5, then only you can use. We already know that we are using latest. So what you do, just node index.js, and it is working fine. Vendor rating and customer rating. But one is having an accessor, so it becomes easy. Another without accessor, every time we have to follow this lengthy hierarchy. This is very, very commonly used in our Angular. Because when you are dealing with Angular, you have to design multi-level hierarchy of forms. And when you are designing multi-level hierarchy of forms, we have to access an element from the form. And for that, you need this kind of accessing abilities to handle. So this is one example for that. That is an example. So this is about accessors in a class. So class have two important basic things. One is property, another one accessor. Next important, you should know that in a class, these two are already there in JavaScript also. JavaScript have properties, JavaScript have accessors. But what is new in TypeScript is TypeScript classes have static and non-static members. So a property or method can be static or non-static in TypeScript. Can be static or non-static in TypeScript, which is actually in JavaScript all are non-static. In JavaScript, no static. All are non-static. So in JavaScript, class members all are non-static. But in TypeScript, we have clean differentiation. You can configure any method or property as static or non-static. Now, the question here is, in object-oriented programming, what is static? What is static? In OOP languages, what are static members? What it is? What is static means? What is static and non-static? Memory? Okay. Anything else? Static means, okay, let's take a clean example, means let's understand clearly. Generally at learning level, when you learn static, non-static, so you have sometimes one definition, that is just learning level definition you will have. But architecturally, a developer should know when to use static, when he have to create a static member, for which purpose. That is important. For that, you need to understand one concept. So what you need to understand about static, non-static is, in any computer programming, actually the word static, non-static, these are the terms related to memory. The terms static and non-static, these terms are related to memory. That means actually in computer programming, we will have static memory and we will have a non-static memory. Non-static, or you call dynamic. So memory is classified into static and non-static. What is nature of static memory? How static memory works? What is the nature of static memory is static is called continuous memory. It is called continuous memory. Non-static is called discrete memory. Discrete memory. So what is difference? I will tell you. Continuous memory, discrete memory. So in any computer programming in the world, the words static and non-static refers to memory. And what is static memory? Static memory is continuous memory. And non-static is discrete memory. What is continuous means? I will tell you. Here, suppose we have a class called demo. In this class, we have two members. S is 0 and N is also 0. S is a static member. Suppose S is a static member. Generally, static members are declared by using yes, static. Static is the keyword used for static members. Now, static members are stored in continuous memory. That means S equal to 0. Non-static members are stored in non-static memory, N equal to 0. Now, in this memory, we are doing some operation on static, S equal to S plus 1. And on non-static also we are doing N equal to N plus 1. Same operation we are doing on both. Now what happens is, for this class, that means for the class demo, we created an object, object 1. Now this object have to use, this is an object for this class. Now that object have to use the static memory as well as it should use the dynamic. Now what happened is, it used this static memory, then it makes S equal to, it makes S equal to 0 plus 1 means how much? 1. Okay, after making S as 1, object 1 finished using it. Even if it finished using it, it will keep that in the memory and it will come out. That means the memory allocated for object 1, it will continue for second object. The memory allocated for object 1 will continue for second object. So if second object is created, obj2, second object is created for the same class. Then what happens if the object is created for the same class? It will go into memory and it will continue the previous memory. Previous object memory is S1. Then it will continue that memory. That means it will be S equal to 1 plus 1. It will be 2. The memory allocated for first object will continue for others. That is called continuous memory. That is called static. At any high level experience interviews, if anybody asks what is static, you should use the word continuous memory. You don't try to explain your answers. In real time interviews, we should never explain answers. We should use keywords, technical words. If you start explaining answer, that means this will happen in static, that will happen in static. You try explaining. From that explanation, he will pick up one more question. So you are giving interviewer the scope of going in depth about the topic. If you are explaining a topic, never explain any answer. Just tell the answer in technical words. Just use 1-2 words answer for that. If you start explaining your answer, then interviewer will pick up questions from that answer. That means you are making your interview more complicated now. So never explain, only use technical words, learn technical words, remember them, and try to deliver them in interview. So if you say continuous memory, that's enough. That satisfies what is static. If he wants, he will ask, like, what is continuous memory means? Then you have to tell continuous memory means the memory allocated for an object will continue for next. That means that is static. What about non-static? Non-static is nothing but same object will go to non-static now. It will go to non-static. Then what happens? N value will be how much? N equal to 0 plus 1. And that means N is 1. After first object finished using the memory resets again. Memory resets again, disconnects. Resets, that's why discrete. Discrete means disconnected. Continuous means continued. When it disconnects, when second object will go, what will happen? Again N will be 0 plus 1. For every object, N value will be 1 if it is non-static. But for every object, S is continued. Now, the question is how a developer knows when to write static, when to write non-static. That means as a developer, when you will decide that this member should be static, this member should be non-static. I will tell one example for that. Example is simple actually. Suppose, means as a developer, how to decide whether it is static or non-static. Suppose we are developing an application. In this application, we have actions like insert, update, and delete. Now we have to communicate with a database. That means we have a database. On that, we need these three operations: insert, update, and delete. Now, before inserting or updating or deleting, one more extra work we have to do. That is, we have to first connect. After that, insert, update, delete. That means now I will give this connection as a static connection. We will give the connection as a static connection. Then what happens is, you click insert. Then first it will connect. After connecting, it will perform insert. After insert finished, connection is still open. Connection is still open. Now update object will use that connection. Delete object will use that connection. What is good? What is good is every object don't need to create a connection. The connection created for first object will continue for others. That is very good. Then what happens? We can do operations continuously. Discrete. Suppose if I give this connection as not static connection, I give this connection as non-static. Then what happens? You click insert. First it will connect. After that inserts. After inserting, disconnects. Then if I want update, what should happen? If I want update, again I have to connect. Understood it? Again I have to connect. Then update. After updating, disconnect. So what is good about static? Good about static is continuous. Continuous. For example, you opened Gmail. In the first screen, it asked you user ID, password. You entered user ID, password, and login. After login, first page, it shows you have 10 mails. And you saw that. After that, you click first mail. You saw the first mail. After that, go back to previous page. Previous page. So if it is a non-static connection, it will ask login again. That means after you finished first mail, it will disconnect. That means imagine for every email, you have to log in. This is what kind of connection? If I have to log in every time, that means it is non-static. Once login enough, until logout, it should continue. Then it is what? Static. For example, you are doing some transaction on Paytm or PhonePe. You send some 100 rupees to a person, it will ask you PIN. After entering the PIN, transaction finished. To the same person, again 100 rupees you need to send, it will ask again PIN. Why it cannot continue previous? Because it is not safe. It is not secured. So what is problem with static? Static is not safe. Static occupies more memory. That means if I am not inserting, updating, deleting, then connection is still open. For example, you checked Gmail and you haven't signed out, went away. Somebody opened browser, entered Gmail, your account will open. That's not great. But that is great. That is good. If this is my PC, nobody else will access, then I don't need to log in every day, every time. That means as a developer, if you need continuous operations to handle, then better use static. If you need disconnected access, then you use non-static. Both are required according to situation. So static problem is it uses more memory and it is not safe because anything in static memory can be hacked. You can access because it stays for a long time. So static and non-static difference is that. Now at learning of various technologies, how you will learn? If I ask static, then you will say static members are accessible by class name, right? Static members are accessible by class name. That is their nature. That is not their purpose. How they are accessed, that is not the question. The question is what is the purpose of static? But many of the learners of OOP concepts, we have seen this answer. People saying static members are accessible by class name. Non-static members are accessed by using an instance object. Who asked that? How they are accessed, I never asked. My question was why we need static, not about how they are accessed, right? But always learners have a definition about how they are accessed. So forget that. Don't use that definition. Always use these two technical words. That is enough. Static is for continuous memory. Non-static is for discrete memory. Let's prove this point. See, I will create a class demo. In this static member, I am giving static S0 and non-static member N also 0. So I will create a constructor, and in this constructor, I am defining static members are accessed by class name. That means demo.s is equal to demo.s plus 1. We are increasing by 1. And non-static members are accessed in the class by using this. This.n is equal to this.n plus 1. After that, I am using a print method. I am printing console.log. So I am printing s is equal to the value of s. That means demo.s. N is equal to the value of n. This.n. I am printing value of s and n. Now let's create three objects. Let obj1 is equal to new demo. Through that obj1 we will print s and n value we are printing. Similarly, let obj2 is equal to new demo. So obj2 dot print. Okay. Let obj3 is equal to new demo. All three objects belong to same class and they are using the print method. Now all three objects belong to same class. Let's see what will happen now. Let's compile tsc index.ts, node index.js, and you will see s is incremented 1, 2, 3, but n is 1. But s is used by second object, it is 2. S is used by third object, it is 3. That means the memory allocated for first object is continuing. Static continues its memory, whereas non-static resets every time. For every object, memory is new. That means once it finished using the memories, that means the memory is completely differently allocated. For a class, 2 types of memory is allocated. Class is in the memory. In the memory, again, two divisions will be there. Static members will occupy static memory, and non-static will be dynamic memory. And what is the nature of dynamic memory? It resets for every object. Static memory continues. So here the static memory is continuing S1, 2, 3, and non-static resets every time. So that means every time its value is only 1. That is the proof of what is static and non-static. That means we proved that the object 1 sending its static memory to 2, and the 2 is used by 3. But non-static resets every time. That is what we discussed in this diagram. So that is the difference of static and non-static. So as a developer, how you will decide that in a class this member should be static? Tell me, what is the decision point? What is the decision point? How you will decide that this property must be static? For which property you will decide that you have to give static? If that property have to continue its data to the next object, that means all objects must need continuous data, then what you do? Static. That means in which situation we use static? To handle continuous operations. To handle continuous operations we use static. To handle discrete operations we use non-static. Best example already I told you. That means you are doing some money transactions in bank. Then every time you need to verify the password. That because after doing the transaction it can't continue. It can continue, but it knows that it is not safe. That's the reason after every transaction it disconnects and cleans up. Next transaction again new. For example, you are doing a transaction of some payment, some ticket booking. They will give 5 minutes time, 7 minutes time. Within the 7 minutes you don't do, your session terminated, disconnected. You will have to log in again, or you have to restart your complete selection process again. That is what actually non-static. Once you log in and until you log out, you are continuously doing the operations. That means it is static. Static. That is the difference between static and non-static. So how do we define? So the terms static and non-static refers to memory. So what is static? So actually static refers to continuous memory. Static refers to continuous memory. That means memory allocated for first object will continue for next. So it uses more memory, and it is not safe. It is not safe. So static members in class are declared by using static keyword. They are accessed within or outside class, by using class name. Within class or outside class, they are accessed by using class name. That is the nature of static. So syntactically like this: class demo some static s is some 0. Just syntax. Example later I will give. This is static members, static memory. How we configure and define the static memory. Next, non-static, or you say dynamic. So it refers to discrete memory. It refers to discrete memory. Discrete memory is nothing but disconnected. 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 That means memory is newly allocated. Allocated for every object. That means memory is destroyed after every object. So it provides disconnected access. Disconnected access to data. Disconnected access to data. We have connected access and disconnected access. And non-static members are accessed within class by using this keyword, and outside class by using instance of class. By using an instance of class. Instance of class is object. So within the class, we can access by using this keyword. Outside the class by using instance of class, that is. So that is the point. So example, syntactically we define just class demo, and here we define some n is equal to 0. This is non-static. We don't have any keyword for reference for that. And all the members in a class that you define, whether it is a property or a method, it can be static or non-static, right? So this example I will post. I will give you that example here. Index.ts. So in this example, I just showed you how the memory continues from one object to another. How the memory is continuing. This is the example for that. This is the example for that. I will copy this. Here we have two members. One is static, another one non-static. We are incrementing both by 1 and we are printing. So every object is newly allocating memory only. But one is using static memory, another one is non-static memory. So this is an example. So here one FAQ for you, for just to understand when to use static members. When to configure, suppose, when to configure static members. When to configure static members as a developer in the class. So when you need continuous operations. When you need continuous operations. So then you need static. So when to configure non-static members. Non-static members. So when you need discrete operations. That means disconnected. This is connected access, and this is disconnected access. Actually, both are required depending on situation. It's not like which one is best, right? What is the problem with static? Memory continues, it uses more memory. It leads to memory overheads because memory is in use, but you are not using it. So non-static drawback is every time we need to connect. Every operation needs to connect. So if continuous operations have to perform, then non-static is not great, right? Static is good, right? That depending on situation, we use that. So while working with classes, you need to know that class members are static and non-static. That is a very important point. This is not there in JavaScript. So this is there in TypeScript. So that means in JavaScript, you have class, we have properties, we have accessors, but you cannot use the word static in JavaScript class. In TypeScript, we can do that, right? Now, what is another new in TypeScript is TypeScript provides access modifiers. TypeScript provides access modifiers. Again, this is not available in JavaScript. So access modifier is nothing but, so access modifier sets code level scope restrictions, sets code level scope restrictions. Actually, access modifiers, we have three here. TypeScript access modifiers are, we have public, and we have private, and we have protected. Only these three are there. Only these three: public, private, and protected. What is difference between public, private, and protected? Actually, here, this is about their accessibility. So what is public is, so it is accessible. It is accessible within the class or outside class. It is accessible within the class or outside class. It is accessible outside class by using a derived class object or superclass object. It is accessible by using both derived class object or superclass object. It is accessible outside class by using derived class object or superclass object. It is available both. So public is accessible everywhere. It is accessible inside the class, outside the class. So it is accessible in derived class, or outside derived class also. Derived class, everywhere it is available. This is public accessibility, public. But we have private. I will show you example. We have private. Private is nothing but it is accessible only within class. That's it. It is not accessible anywhere else. It is accessible only within class. Now what is protected? It is accessible within class. Within class it is accessible. It is accessible within, it is accessible to derived class. Only by using derived class object, not by using superclass object. That is the basic restriction actually. Protected means it is accessible to derived class only, and only by using derived class object, not by using superclass object. That is what actually protected is. So let's prove these 3 points here: public, private, and protected. Let's see here. So I am creating the members with these 3 things here. So we will create a class called super class. Super class means base class. And here we are using, so public, so name, string type, and some TV. We have private, price, some number type, and some value. And we have some stock. So protected stock, it is a Boolean type, Boolean type. Yeah, Boolean type and true. Like this we define. We have three members, public, private, and protected. We are creating a derived class. How the derived class inherits the superclass? By using extents. Same like you have seen JavaScript, same inheritance will be there. Extends what? Superclass. Now see here, we are creating an object for derived class. Now through this object, which members I can access? Through this object, which member I can access? Name, price, or stock? You can access only name. You cannot access protected. Only public. Why? Because what is the definition about protected? It is accessible to derived class only by using derived class object. It is accessible to derived class. Currently it is not in derived class, outside. This object is not in derived class, it is outside. So it is not accessible outside. That means through OBJ you can access only name. Only name. This is what? Public. So you can access. Protected means you can access in the derived class. Suppose we have a print method. Okay. Now for this print, in this print method, we created an object is equal to new superclass object we created. Now which member I can access? Here also public only. Protected is not accessible. What is the nature of protected? It is accessible to derived class only by using derived class object. Is this object belonging to derived class? Then protected is not accessible. Protected is accessible in derived class by using derived class object. That means in this class we have to create an object for what? Suppose you created superclass object through OBJ, you can access only name. It should be object of which class? It should be object of which class? Derived class. Inside derived class object. Through that object we can access that stock. We can access name and we can access stock. That is accessible. So what is protected restriction? Protected restriction is it is accessible in the derived class only by using derived class object. Derived class reference, derived class object only you can access. Reference you will see later. Initially, what is difference between public, private, and protected is this. We don't have others here. Means don't compare everything with other technology languages, right? Just OOP concepts are same, but few points are different, right? So public, private, and protected, these are only the three access modifiers you are having, right? So I hope it is clear. Public is accessible everywhere. Private is accessible only within the class, and protected is accessible in the derived class using an derived class reference, using a derived class reference. So better we say object or reference. Reference because actually generally what we do is here we can also create like here OBJ, it is what type? Derived class type. Through that we can access those. That means it's an object or you can access this. Suppose if it is an not derived class, it is a super class, then stock is not available. This OBJ will be what type? It is what type? Derived. It is derived type. Then it is accessible. It is accessible. This is one important. So that is example here. This is a simple option to understand access modifiers. So what is new here is the complete concept is static members. Another one is access modifiers. And three access modifiers: public, private, and protected, right? So now you have the members related details like properties, accessors, static members, and access modifiers. One more member inside class is constructor. Then already in OOP languages, you might have learned this. What is the purpose of a constructor? What is the purpose of a constructor? Initializing values. Then it should be called initializer. It should be called initializer, na? Why you changed name? You are saying constructor is for initializing values. Then why you given the name constructor? You should say initializer. So your answer and what it is doesn't match. So constructor is not for initializing values. Clean. That is clear. It is not for initializing values. If it is for initializing values, it should be called initializer. Right? Why you are initializing values and calling as constructor? There is little bit sense between these two words, na? Right? So that means you have a wrong definition with you. You are saying initializing values and you are saying constructor. Completely not satisfying. Those two words doesn't match at all. Right? So the purpose of constructor is actually a constructor in object oriented programming is used for instantiation. A constructor in object oriented programming is used for instantiation. Actually, that means it is used for constructing an object for class. It is used for constructing an object for class. Why you cannot create an object for interface? We cannot create an object for interface because interface don't have a constructor. Interface don't have a constructor, so you cannot construct an object for that. That means who constructs an object for class? Constructor. The purpose of constructor is constructing an object for class. Initialization. What you should know in depth actually is constructor is a design pattern. It is a design pattern. So which comes under creational patterns. Actually, software design patterns are three types: creational, structural, and behavioral. That means in software development, everything is done by using design patterns. In software development, everything we do by using design patterns. That means entire software development depends on design pattern. If we don't use design patterns and follow them, then a lot of problems will come. I will tell you one simple example actually, because it is a design pattern. Simple point I will tell you. Design patterns is a very big concept. I will not touch that. Just only point I will explain here. Actually, suppose we will take a simple point. General example. Suppose we have a game like chess. I want to play chess game, but I don't know how to play chess. Then what I done is I purchased a book written by Grandmaster. Some world's top Grandmaster written a book how to play chess. And that book I purchased, from that I learned how to play chess. Every rule, every concept of chess I learned. Perfect. I am perfect in chess now. I know everything in chess. And I learned everything from the book. Now with this knowledge, can we attend tournaments and play with experienced people already who played several tournaments? Why not? Why not? Why can't we play with experienced people who already have experience in that game? We also learned rules perfectly. We also learned how to play the game. Then why can't we participate and play with them easily? That is not about experience. That is not about experience. Actually, why we cannot play? Because people who are playing that from several years, they know some techniques, tricks. They will implement those techniques and tricks on you. Those tricks every time may not apply, but sometimes they are very handy, easy. They can easily crack. For example, I will show you. Suppose we have a game like, suppose let's say we have a game like some tic-tac-toe game is there. Some tic-tac-toe game is there. My first move is here. My opponent move is here. I will guarantee that I am going to win the game now. 100%. I will guarantee that I am going to win the game. Will anybody challenge me? Huh? No, it's guarantee, 100% guarantee that I am going to win, because my next move will be here. His move must be here. My next move is here. Done. That means I can wrap the game here or here, anywhere. That is a strategy, plan, right? And if you have such strategies, it's easy. You will not waste time. Do you know when grandmasters like Vishwanath Anand and others, grandmasters, they go as chief guests to some tournaments. You will see hundreds of people are sitting. And what he will do is he will be just walking and playing with everyone. When he comes back, he wraps everyone. That means just in 2-3 moves, finish all these hundreds of people. Why? Because hundreds of design patterns are in his brain. And those patterns, when he apply, he will guarantee that he will win the game. That's compulsory. Until or unless anybody else knows the same. This is in software development also. In software development also, you learn Java, you learn .NET, you learn PHP, Python, or any technology. Suppose you have to build an application for bank. Bank is which domain? Finance. For finance domain, we need to build application. There are certain patterns for that domain. We have to follow those patterns. If we don't follow the patterns, what will happen? If we don't follow the patterns, then we will face some issues. Then if you face those issues, you have to fix the issues by your own. What is the advantage of following a pattern? Because that pattern is already tested, already proven, it is successful, then you follow. Don't try anything new in software development. You have to just follow the patterns which are already built, which are already followed. If you don't follow patterns, you will fail. That means you see, suppose in Java, .NET or some technology you are learning, you are writing a program, some error came. You are unable to solve the error. You go Google and search for it. There will be an answer for it. Am I right? Am I right? How they know that you will come with this question? They have an answer for you, means how they know that you will come with this question? That means they know that if a person writes a program in this way, an error will come here. They know the pattern. Then what they will simply suggest, they will not suggest your program. They will simply say that if you have this problem, do this. They will not suggest your program. They will never see your program because already answers are posted there. They are not going to give a fresh answer until or unless it is, you don't have an answer there found in the results. Already they have answers. You have to just follow the answer. How they know that you will come with this question? Because in software development, everything happens as per plan. And everybody knows where problem will come if he is a newcomer in using it. Then they have a solution also for you ready. Just you go there and find the solution and implement them. Software development is all about patterns. So, and every concept belongs to patterns. That means how an object is created for class and how a class inherits another class. How a class accesses the members of one class in another class. All these are patterns. We call them as design patterns. Actually, there are 24 design patterns. We call them GOF, Gang of Four. These 24 design patterns are the foundation for all the other design patterns. So we call them, hundreds of patterns are there. 23, 24 are the main patterns. We call them Gang of Four. So, and in software development, everywhere you will find it. I hope few you learned, like singleton. You learned singleton in Java.NET. Like singleton means you have to design a class in such a way that class can have only one object. That means first time object is created, second time it should not allow. How to design a class in such a way that it can have only one object. For that, we have to use a pattern called singleton. Right? There are so many design patterns, and constructor is a design pattern. Constructor is a design pattern that specifies how an object is created for a class. Now, why in your Java.NET you learn that constructor is for initializing values? So, because you might be initializing values in constructor. You might be initializing values in constructor, and you think that constructor is for initializing. But constructor is not for initializing. Constructor is for constructing an object for class. While constructing an object for class, if you want to do some extra functionality, then you have to give that work to constructor. Already constructor is doing which job? Creating object. Some work we need to do at the time of creating object itself, not after object created. That means certain things we have to do at the time of creating object. Then we give that work to constructor. We give that work to constructor. That means constructor's work is not initialization. Constructor's work is constructing an object for class. At the time of creating an object for class, if you want any extra activity to perform, you can give that work to constructor. For example, see here, I will tell you, see. Suppose just a simple basic example I will show you. A class, so database. Now in this class, you have two operations, insert. Console.log, say record inserted. Record inserted. This message should come. Now, what I have to do is, I need to create Oracle. So is equal to new database. And what happens is Oracle.insert. But before inserting, I should connect with the database first. Now, there can be several ways. What I will do to connect with the database, to make it more easy, what I will do is, at the time of creating object itself, it should connect. At the time of creating object, that means Oracle, we are allocating memory, new database, that means object is created. Once object is created, at the time of creating object, I should connect with the database, so that connection is ready. Then I can simply use insert. That means no need to connect manually. If I have to give manual, suppose I am giving connect, manually I am giving console.log. So I will put a message connected with the database. This message I am giving. Now I am running this. When I am running this, it is not connecting. So that means I will put tsc index.ts and we will say node index.js. It is not connecting, it is inserting. Without connecting, inserting means my database will reject connections. It is saying, it will say that please connect and insert. But now I return connection. By return connection, why it is not working? I return connection. Why it is not working? Because I given this work to a method. When this method will do, when you call it, it will do. When you call it, it will do. But without calling, it should do. Then we will give this work to constructor, the same work to constructor. If I give this work to constructor, at the time of constructing object itself, it will do this. It will do this. Now see here, I am running. What will happen is, when I run this, when I run node index.js, it will connect and insert. Am I calling that connection? I'm not calling the connection. Connection is created at the time of creating an object. Am I using constructor for initializing value? Here, am I initializing any value? I'm not initializing any value. Then what is the purpose of constructor? Not initializing values. Constructing an object for class. While constructing an object for class, if you want extra work to be done, then give that work to constructor. That means now doubt is, if I don't write constructor, what will happen? If I don't write constructor, every class have a constructor inside. Every class have an internal constructor inside. Even you don't write a constructor, there will be a constructor. That is what people call as default constructor. And what is the role of constructor? To create an object for class. Then in many interviews, they ask like, I have a class. How do I restrict the class in such a way that I cannot create an object for class? I have a class. How do I restrict the class in such a way that object cannot be created for class? If you can restrict constructor, then object will not be created. Then in Java, .NET like technologies, the answer is by using a private constructor. By using a private constructor. In Java, .NET, if anybody asked you a question like C++ and everywhere, how we can prevent a class from inheritance and how we can prevent a class from creating object. So from creating object, from inheritance, if you want to prevent any class, put a private constructor inside. If you put a private constructor, it will not allow to create an object. Object cannot be created for any class if you can restrict that constructor. If constructor is private, then you cannot create an object for that class. Right? That is the regular question asked in OOP languages. How we can prevent a class from instantiation? Generally, many people give answer like static. Right? Static is not about creating object. Static is about memory. Creating object is constructor. If you want to restrict object creation, then you have to restrict the constructor. Right? That is what the main purpose of constructor, right? Constructor is a design pattern which comes under creational patterns. Actually, creational patterns in software engineering. In software engineering deals with creation of object, creation of an object. Creational patterns in software engineering deals with creation of object. So the various creational patterns, so many creational patterns are there. I will give a simple list here. I will give those list. As I already told you, singleton and all these are creational patterns actually. These are creational patterns actually. These are all creational patterns. These are the creational patterns. Abstract, factory, builder, factory method, prototype, singleton. These comes under creational patterns. Let me copy this for you. These are creational patterns. abstract factory, builder, factory method, and singleton. These are creational patterns. Just few points I will give. Abstract factory and factory method, builder, singleton, so etc. These are enough. We are not going in depth about that, right? So because it's a very big concept, we will just understand the concept. So if you want any action to perform at the time of creating object, then provide that functionality to whom? Constructor. That is what actually we have to do. So generally, what type of work we give to constructor? If you want any work to be done at the time of creating object, then we do that. And some more basic points are there about constructor. So that we will see in the next session. Tomorrow we will do about that. Okay, this example. In tomorrow we will discuss inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction. These three things about the classes, how they work. Then some more module systems are there. That means mostly by this weekend we will finish TypeScript. Then we will start our Angular. Okay. Then because so many new things are there in TypeScript to learn, it will take this weekend to finish all the TypeScript part. Okay. Tomorrow we will see how inheritance, polymorphism, and abstraction works in classes. Okay. Right.
డైలీ క్లాసెస్ లింక్స్ షేర్ చేస్తారా సార్?